Jocelyn Story, do you have a question for us?
Yes.
Thank you.
Should the £5 note be reissued gluten-free and vegan?
Louise Mensch.
No, I don't think it should. I mean, can people just grow up even a tiny, tiny bit? We just spent an awful lot of money redesigning the fiver. It works perfectly well, even if you are a vegetarian or a vegan, and I respect that. You honestly don't have the right to take your preferences and impose them on the entire country. It's a £5 note. They're not asking you to eat it. They're asking you to buy things with it. So a little bit of common sense would not go amiss when it comes to things like this, I think.
Jocelyn Story, what do you think? Jocelyn, what's your view?
I'm a meat eater and I eat flowers, so I don't really have a leg to stand on.
You eat... Did you say you eat flowers?
Excuse me?
Did you say you eat flowers?
Flour for gluten.
Oh, flour. Wheat and flowers. I thought you were giving me the full range, like you were kind of like a... Sarah Wollaston.
Well, I think if we can avoid offending people in the future, let's change it. But wherever you go in the public space, you'll be touching leather. And we're not talking about consuming it, we're talking about touching it. But I think perhaps a bigger issue would be to have more women on the fivers, I'd say. That would be...
Nigel Farage.
I have to say, I really, honestly, genuinely couldn't care less. The only thing to add is, thank God, it's a pound note and not a euro note.
Right, who's got views on this in the audience? Yes, one at the front here. What?
I'm a gluten-free person. It doesn't bother me one bit whatsoever.
Jolly good, well done.
But if you kind of hold it and then lick your finger or something... Supposing you were a bank clerk and do all that...
Oh, they use those little things that go on the finger, don't they?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Any vegans here who have a real... Yes.
Yeah.
Do you object quite seriously to it? Not at all. Why not?
I think we've got more important things to worry about
Richard Bergen.
Well, I'm a vegetarian who eats fish. That means I'm supposedly a pescatarian, but I don't want to call myself that because it sounds a bit pretentious. But it doesn't bother me what's in the £5 note. The only thing that bothers me about the £5 note, I'm used to it being bigger, so it does drop out my hands sometimes. Yes. It's too small, but maybe you think that politicians are always losing money, losing other people's money.
It jumps, doesn't it? Have you noticed that?
Does.
It jumps.
Yeah.
You put anything else you can fold up and put in your pocket. Yeah. And the £5 note used to be about that big. Anybody remember those ones? White. Anybody remember a white £5 note? You have to be quite old to remember that. And you folded them up, and you had to sign them. So do I.
I tell you what, my grandfather told me for the longest time I can remember that every £20 note had a queen's hair in it, and I really believed it.
I can't remember why. I thought the Governor of the Bank of England signed it. Why did we have to sign them as well?
I don't know. I never actually owned one.
Will Self.
A more important issue is the fact that in my youth, everybody used to sign cheques when they wanted to draw money out of the bank. Self. They stopped doing it when I'd had about 25 million salted away in my account. But in terms of monetary reform, I'd like to bring back that, please.
It just said you just pay self, didn't it?
Pay self.
Pay self.
I like that. But, I mean, it's interesting, the sort of casus belli of the Indian Mutiny, of course, was pork fat. Or actually, no, it was beef fat, I think, in the cartridges. And the sepoys, the Indian troops, didn't want to bite them off. As a fervid anti-imperialist, the sight of Winston Churchill's face looking up at me from a plastic fiver always fills me with rage. And I find myself biting it off. And being, of course, unlike Richard, incredibly pretentious and metropolitan, I am, of course, fashionably wheat intolerant and then very ill. So you probably say it serves me right.
The man up there.
Sarah Wollaston raised the issue saying that there should be more women on the notes, but I don't think this is too much of an issue because the last time I looked, there was one on every single note.
Very true.
Very good. Anybody else got? Yes, Ewan.
Mr. Farage, are you sure it's not the EU's fault?
Well, I don't blame the EU for absolutely everything, I promise you. And I think this may be our fault, all right?
Okay, you surprised me, but we'll take it.
Yeah, when we're recording, I'll blame them for everything.
Yeah, Right, are you ready outside? Good, I think we can start. So, could you all hear that okay? Sounds quite good in here, isn't it? And when we start, just a word, you're all in shot. So can you kind of look as if you've just come in and are all, you know... That's it, that's great. Cosmetics matter, you see. So just give me a moment to this. So we need lots of, like I said to you outside, the whole secret of this is lots of interventions, lots of argument, lots of debate, lots of insight, lots of pizzazz, lots of thoughtfulness, lots of women, and lots of time for me just to turn these pages over so that they don't get... Right. Oh, and lots of makeup. Okay. Right, are we ready? You ready? No. Okay, when you're ready. Welcome to Question Time, which tonight comes from Maidenhead. And with us here tonight, the Conservative Chair of the Health Select Committee, Sarah Wollaston, Labour's Shadow Justice Secretary, Richard Bergen, the former leader of UKIP, who stepped down last week and is now available for any ambassadorial post he might be offered, Nigel Farage, the novelist and New Statesman columnist Will Self, and the former Tory MP who left British politics to live in New York, Louise Mensch. And as always, you don't need to feel left out. If you're watching this at home, you can join the debate. Facebook, Twitter, or you can text us on 83981. So let's get started with this question from Lewis Terry, please. Lewis Terry.
Is Donald Trump a worthy recipient of Time Magazine's Person of the Year?
Right. Time Magazine every year makes somebody the Person of the Year or the person who's had the greatest influence, for better or worse. Is he a worthy recipient? Nigel Farage.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I mean, the whole point of the prize is whether Time Magazine think you're a force for good or a force for bad. And there aren't many shades of grey in terms of the way people look at Donald Trump. Either way, he's made the most dramatic impact on politics this year. Everybody thought it was literally impossible for him even to win the nomination, to get through the primaries. He did. And the day before the election... you know, the New York Times said there was a 97% probability that Hillary Clinton would win. He stunned everybody. He's taking over as president on the 20th of January. And not only do I think he's a worthy recipient of Time Magazine's Person of the Year, I think he will also, by this time next year, surprise all of you by just how popular and good a president he's going to be.
Okay. Of course, it is influence, not a good influence or a bad influence that they choose. Hitler and Stalin were both chosen as...
Yes, and Churchill won.
Yes.
But I mean, he's been, you know, it is an astonishing thing that this man has become president.
Will Self.
I always think it's a bit of a paradox that Nigel Farage subscribes to the great man of history view, really. given that he doesn't quite shape up to that sort of stature himself. And while I think that Trump certainly is a personification of major changes in geopolitics, I'm not so sure that it's the man himself that's truly significant. It's more what he symbolises.
And in terms of what he symbolises, has he had the greatest influence on the events of the year?
Well, yes, undoubtedly. But I mean, as I say, it's what he symbolises. As with Brexit, it was a case that this was a political eventuality people didn't expect. But that's because we've moved beyond the frame of politics as it's been understood for a long time. And Trump rode that wave. To some extent, he kind of created it as well, that's true. But Trump, Nigel, this is not Churchill, Hitler and Stalin, thank God, in the case of the two latter.
I can't work that out.
But in the case of the two latter ones, undoubtedly a good thing, yeah. So I think that's kind of weird, because we step back from a minute, people. These are not great statesmen or people.
What are they? What are they?
They're grubby little opportunists who are riding the coattails of history. And deeply principled.
Louise Mensch.
I cannot believe that I am going to open this show by doing this after so many years of vociferously opposing Nigel Farage, but I have to say that he is being a bit too modest here, because he was one of the nominees for Times Person of the Year, and it was given to Donald Trump, and he very generously didn't mention that when he was commending Trump. I do think it has to be Trump, because nobody else has provided such an earthquake as he has done in our politics. And he is, after all, a commensurate showman. And the line I like, living in America and watching this unfold, Hillary Clinton had an enormous victory in the popular vote, but you can't cry about that. You can't change the rules of the game after it has been